Hey guys, welcome to StudyIQ. My name is Prashant Dhawan, and in this video we are going to talk about India-Israel relations. Now, why are we discussing this topic? It is because India and Israel are celebrating 25 years of their diplomatic relations. That is correct. 25 years ago, India and Israel established their diplomatic relations. So, before discussing that topic, I would like to tell you about StudyIQ's recently launched UPSC pen drive. So, as you can see over here, if you order it right away, the first 1000 buyers will get a flat 5000 rupees discount. Other than that, an additional international module in their course, which will be very beneficial for your preparation. And the course has been made by Bhumika Saini. She got rank 664 in the UPSC examination. Dr. Gaurav Garg, he's a very prominent teacher over here. You can watch many of his videos on StudyIQ. And of course, Dr. Mahipal Singh Rathod, he has made polity and history module. So if you want to buy the pen drive course, you can call us on these numbers over here or order it directly from studyiq.com. So we will be discussing all these topics in this video. First of all, we will talk about the history of India-Israel relations. This is quite important. I will also take notes from Shashi Tharoor's book, Pax Indica, for you guys. That will be quite beneficial. Then we will discuss the defense ties between India and Israel, and of course how Israel has been helping India in agriculture and cyber security. These 2 points are quite important for your examinations. Make sure to make notes over there. And then we will also discuss how Israel's intelligence agency Mossad and India's intelligence agency RAW have been working together way before the governments established official diplomatic relations. This will be quite interesting. And then we will also talk about Spike anti-tank guided missile deals that will be signed when Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes to Israel in a few weeks. Now let's begin with the history of India-Israel relations. On a second thought, let's just have a look at the map before we discuss the history of India and Israel. So over here you can see India. If you go to the western side over here and zoom in, yeah. So over here you can see Iraq, Iran, Saudi Arabia, right? And then over here this is Syria. And if we zoom in over here, on the southern side of Syria you can see Israel. Okay, so this is Israel, and Israel shares its borders with Egypt, and the capital of Egypt is Cairo. Jordan, the capital of Jordan is Amman, and Syria, the capital of Syria is Damascus. This is very important. Make sure that you remember the capital of Syria. And Lebanon, the capital of Lebanon is Beirut. Okay, this was also known as the Paris of the Middle East. And of course, Palestine over here. So Israel shares its borders with all these countries. And if we zoom in over here, you can see the Dead Sea. This is the Dead Sea. Okay, so this is just to give you a vague idea of what we are trying to talk about here. So now let's discuss the history. So as I told you guys earlier, India and Israel are celebrating 25 years of their diplomatic relations. So in 1992, India and Israel established their diplomatic relations officially. Now you might be wondering that sounds a bit odd because India got independence way before 1992 and so did Israel. Well, you are right there. Let me tell you that Israel got its independence on the 14th May 1948, and India got its independence on 15th August 1947, as you guys probably know. Now, interestingly, both of them got their independence from the British. Now, some of you might be wondering, no, how can you say that Israel got its independence through different means? They occupied Palestine and all that. Well, that might be an area of a lot of debate, but history books tell us that when the British mandate ended in Israel, they decided to create their own nation. Alright, so as soon as the British mandate ended on the midnight of 13 May 1948, the next day Israel was born. So technically, although Israel didn't really get its independence the way we did, but technically it also got its independence from the British. Now again, the mystery intensifies, doesn't it? Why did it take so long for India and Israel to establish full diplomatic relations? Well, to answer this question, we must look at India's economic needs. You see, India didn't want to annoy the Arab world because, look, as you probably know, Israel has a lot of animosity with the Arab world. When I say the Arab world, I mean Iran, Iraq, Egypt, Syria, and the Middle and the Gulf countries as well. So, and in 1960s, Israel also fought a war with them. So, because of all this, India didn't want to establish good relations with Israel because India believed that if it did that, the Arab world would get annoyed and India will lose its only chance to develop good relations with the Arab world. Now you might be wondering why was the Arab world so important for India. So over here I will quote some lines from Shashi Tharoor's book Pax Indica. This is chapter 5, India's Near Abroad, the Arab World and the Rest of Asia, page 159 over here. So it is written that the Arab world constitutes an integral part of India's extended neighborhood and is a region of critical importance to India in political, strategic, security and economic terms. It also accounts for 63% of our crude oil imports. Now, this data is from 2012. I think some of the data is outdated, but mostly the crux is more important over here. So focus on the crux over here. So 63% of our crude oil imports are from the Arab world, and other than that, millions of Indian workers also work in the Arab world, and because of that, India gets a lot of remittances, right? Because of a lot of reasons, Arab world was very important for India, and India did not want to jeopardize its relations with the Arab world just because of Israel. Now, some of you might be asking, didn't India had the option of being friendly with Israel and the Arab world? Well, the answer is no, primarily because Pakistan was also aggressively trying to court the Arab world, because as soon as India and Pakistan got independence, they chose different blocs. Pakistan chose to side with United States, India chose to side with the Soviet Union and created the non-aligned movement. So Pakistan, being an ally of US, had an advantage when it tried to create good relations with the Arab world. Other than that, Pakistan being a Muslim country, that also gave it a good advantage. So India had to do something special in order to make sure that the Arab world is pleased and they do want to develop good ties with India, because back then the Arab world did not need India as much as India needed the Arab world. And of course, there is also the issue of Israel and Palestine. Israel has been violating a lot of human rights over there, and it has slowly occupied a lot of Palestinian land, and this has annoyed the Arab people even more. So this is one of the reasons why Israel and India couldn't be friends for a very long time. Now let's have a look at some other points over here. It's going to get quite interesting. Now guys, we are going to read more of this chapter over here, India's Near Abroad. Now the reason why we are going to read this chapter is, this chapter will give us an insight into how involved India was in the Palestinian cause, how much we supported the Palestinian cause just to please the Arabs so that we could get some economic advantage out of it. Now over here it is written that one important aspect of India-Arab relations has been a similarity of views on a number of political questions of global importance, of course. Notably, New Delhi's consistent position on the issue of Palestine. India's solidarity with the Palestinian people and its attitude to the Palestinian questions reflects, perhaps more than any other issue, the enduring nature of Indo-Arab ties. Alright, now this is quite interesting. Now Tharoor Sahab over here has quoted some historical references where India has supported the Palestinian cause way before India got its independence. So it was as early as in 1936, I am reading from the book again, that the Congress Working Committee sent greetings to Palestine, and on 27 September 1936, Palestine Day was first observed in India. In 1939, session of Indian National Congress adopted a resolution on Palestine and looked forward to the emergence of an independent democratic state in Palestine in which Jewish rights would also be protected. Now, of course, this is certainly not what the Jewish people wanted. They wanted something else. India was a member of the United Nations Special Committee on Palestine as well, and over there it advocated for Palestine, and in 1974 it became the first, now this is quite important, now listen carefully. In 1974, India became the first non-Arab country to recognize Palestine Liberation Organization. Now this was headed by Yasser Arafat at that time. So this is quite significant because all the Arab countries, of course, they would support PLO because they believed it would give them some leverage over Israel. But just look at how determined India was towards the Palestinian cause, that even India, which was not an Arab country, yet it decided to recognize the PLO. And not just that, in March 1980, the government of India announced in Parliament India's decision to accord full diplomatic recognition to the PLO office in New Delhi. It was after this that Yasser Arafat paid a 3-day official visit to India, during which he described India as an eternal friend. So, and Yasser Arafat, he called Indira Gandhi his sister. And in 1988, India recognized Palestine as a state. Now, this is quite important. This can be asked in a question: does India recognize Palestine as a state? Then the Indian government has constructed the Palestine embassy building in New Delhi as a gift of the people and the government of India to the Palestinian people. Of course, India has had an unwavering record of supporting Palestine cause since the days of our freedom struggle, as we just talked about. Even Mahatma Gandhi wrote a letter when he heard about the Palestine and the Jewish conflict. He said that these are the words of Mahatma Gandhi: "My sympathies are with the Jews, but my sympathy does not blind me to the requirements of justice. The cry for the national home for the Jews does not make much appeal to me. The sanction for it is sought in the Bible, and the tenacity with which the Jews have hankered after return to Palestine. Why should they not, like 20 other people of the earth, make that country their home where they are born and where their livelihood is? Palestine belongs to the Arabs in the same sense England belongs to the English and French belongs to the French." So even Mahatma Gandhi was a very strong advocate of the Palestinian cause. And later on it is written that this was more or less a consensual position in the Indian nationalist movement, though Jawaharlal Nehru, moved by the treatment of Jews in Germany by Hitler, of course, he's talking about the concentration camps over here, proposed in 1936 that they be allowed refuge in India. The belief was that the Jews deserved humanitarian relief for their suffering, but the issue of mistreatment in Europe could not be solved at the expense of Arabs by relocating them to Palestine. It was for this reason that India voted against the creation of Israel in the United Nations General Assembly in 1948. Though India subsequently recognized the new state of Israel in 1950, relations were maintained at low-key consular level for 4 decades, until 1992, of course. So this will give you a clear picture of how aggressively India has supported the Palestinian cause for a very long time. Now the question is, what happened in 1992 that India finally changed its policy towards Israel and they upgraded the diplomatic relations with Israel to full ambassadorial level? Well, a lot of things happened. The most important was probably the fall of the Soviet Union. So as I told you, after independence, India decided to join the Soviet Union bloc, even though it called itself a non-aligned country, but it was very much close to the Soviet Union. So as soon as the Soviet Union fell, the balance of geopolitics was tilted in favor of America, because for a very long time US and Soviet Union, they sort of kept the equilibrium of geopolitics, but now suddenly one gigantic power fell and US pretty much had all the power in its hand. So India had to quickly understand how the geopolitical implications have changed and what it has to do in order to survive and get the best out of it. So India decided at that time that in order to forge better ties with the United States of America, it probably needs to start building diplomatic relations with Israel first, since Israel is a very close ally of United States. So in 1992, under Prime Minister Narasimha Rao, India decided to upgrade diplomatic relations with Israel to full ambassadorial level. Later on in 1998, under the NDA government, when Atal Bihari Vajpayee was the Prime Minister of India, India strived for even better relations with Israel. There were more initiatives taken from the Indian side to forge even closer relations with Israel. That eventually resulted in better relations with United States as well. Okay, because a lot of Indian diplomats saw Israel as a gateway towards better diplomatic relations with United States. And of course, then in 2003, the Israeli Prime Minister Ariel Sharon, he was the first Israeli Prime Minister who visited India, and it was a historic visit. Now, some of you might also be wondering that India supported Palestine for such a long time. Didn't Israel harbor any animosity towards India? Well, no, primarily, because of 3 reasons. First of all, India's support to Palestine wasn't really all that important because India didn't really had the economic or political power to actually, impact anything. So Israel wasn't exactly very concerned about India's support towards the Palestinian cause. Secondly, even though India was supporting the Palestinian cause, Israelis knew that India will become a very big defense importer in the near future, and Israel can actually get a chunk of that market. So economics is the top priority. Every country wants to earn foreign exchange. That's their priority one, I guess. So that's why Israel decided to ignore all the things that India did in the past, and as soon as India extended the hand of friendship, Israel responded in a very cordial way. So now let's look at how India and Israel's defense relations, how they flourished. Now we talked about the first Israeli Prime Minister who visited India in 2003. Now this is quite important over here. The first Israeli President who visited India in 1997. This is very important for your preliminary examination. So the first Israeli President who visited India was Weizmann. It is easy to remember. He was a very wise man. And he really was a very wise man because under him, the first defense deal between India and Israel was finalized. So under Weizmann, India negotiated the purchase of Barak 1, which was a vertically launched surface-to-air missile from Israel, of course. Barak 1 had to be purchased because Pakistan had purchased Lockheed P-3 Orion Martin surveillance aircraft and 27 Harpoon sea-skimming anti-ship missiles from United States. So India had to balance that out. So in order to do that, Barak 1 was a very significant deal, and of course the first chapter in the big book of India-Israel defense deals. Now in the field of agriculture, Israel has helped India a lot. In 2008, Israel and India finalized an agricultural plan introducing crops native to the Middle East and Mediterranean to India, with particular focus on olives. And around 1,12,000 olive trees were planted in the desert of Rajasthan. And in 2014, more than 100 tons of olives were produced in Rajasthan, which of course benefited the farmers and the government. Now the reason why I'm using this particular example is because this was done under the UPA government. So a lot of people, they tend to believe that whenever the NDA government comes to power, that's when the Indo-Israel relations, they tend to flourish. But I think that is an assumption even under the UPA government after 1992, of course. Now some might also say that the Muslim vote bank is a factor. That is an assumption as well. I think that is very overstated, and the geopolitical reasons are the main reasons that have driven the Indo-Israeli relations. So anyway, this is quite important. And then the very famous Center of Excellence for Vegetables. Now this can be asked in your preliminary examinations in the UPSC exam. You see, this is basically a project of horticulture, indoor horticulture, where intensive farming is practiced, and it has helped India tremendously. This is basically an Indo-Israel project, and it is located in Karnal, Haryana. Make sure you remember the location, and also make sure that this is basically about horticulture. Now Israel is also helping India a lot in the field of cybersecurity as well, because Israel has a lot of expertise in this field. Recently this was highlighted when Donald Trump invited two Russian ambassadors to the White House. Although this was criticized to some extent, the real criticism came when there were media reports that Donald Trump had accidentally leaked some very sensitive information to the Russians. Now that information was that Israel had managed to hack a lot of computers of ISIS, and now that this has been done, a lot of ISIS commanders are being killed over there. So this was a very classified information. When this information was leaked, of course, Donald Trump was criticized, but the world also got to know that Israel has such cutting-edge technology that they are pretty much at par, maybe even better than their American counterparts when it comes to cybersecurity. But strangely enough, India and Israel don't really haven't really set up an institutionalized cybersecurity cooperation, which I really think they should. But when Prime Minister Narendra Modi visits Jerusalem in July, that will be done. Well, the main area where India wants Israeli cooperation is the voice over internet protocol. You see, a lot of terrorist and extremist groups, they use the voice over internet protocol to communicate, because it is difficult to trace their location and to record their calls through this piece of technology. So they try to use it, but Israel has actually managed to find a way through which it can trace calls that are made through voice over internet protocol as well. So this is a very vital area where India wants Israeli cooperation. Now guys, let's talk about Mossad and RAW over here. Mossad is the intelligence agency of Israel, and RAW, of course, the research and analysis wing, was founded in 1968 by Rameshwar Nath Rao. Needless to say, it is the Indian intelligence agency. So now over here you can see that when research and analysis wing was found, Rameshwar Nath Rao was advised by then Prime Minister Indira Gandhi to cultivate links with Mossad. Now over here you can see that although diplomatic relations between India and Israel were established in 1992, but secretly behind the curtains both the countries were working together on a lot of important fields, primarily in sharing intelligence. So this was suggested as a countermeasure to military links between Pakistan and China, as well as North Korea. Israel was primarily concerned that Pakistani army officers are training Libyans and Iranians in handling Chinese and North Korean military equipment, and India helped Israel, Mossad in particular, to actually make sure that whether this was happening or not. And later on in November 2005, the Times of India reported that the agents of Mossad and MI5 is the intelligence agency of Britain. So Mossad and MI5 were protecting Prime Minister Narendra Modi during his visit to Turkey. This was during the G20 summit in Antalya, Turkey. So over there, because of the recent Paris attacks, all the world leaders were given a lot of security, but Mossad and MI5 both were assisting RAW in doing so, and this was reported by Times of India. So you can see that both Mossad and RAW have been working together for a very long time, even though the diplomatic relations between the two countries took a very long time to flourish. Now let's talk about the recent defense deals that will probably take place when Prime Minister Narendra Modi goes to Israel in July. So India is going to purchase Spike anti-tank guided missiles from Israel, and this will cost around $500 million. It is around 30 to 100 crore rupees. So India and Israel will be signing this deal, and earlier India also considered buying the American-made Javelin anti-tank guided missiles, but that idea was dropped because, well, again, with US you aren't really sure about what the future of the deal is going to be, because in the future, if the certain country which has bought the American equipment, if it does something that is against quote-unquote American interests, then America could actually impose some sanctions on that country. So that country will be in a lot of trouble. So with Israel, India has absolutely no problem with that. Well, pretty much no problem with that, because Israel doesn't really have any history of imposing sanctions on any country, especially India. So since this technology was very much suited to the Indian army, and since Israel is pretty much a more reliable defense supplier compared to United States, so India bought these anti-tank guided missiles from Israel. So the deal includes 8,000 plus missiles and 300 plus launchers. The launchers will be used to, of course, launch the missiles. And this deal will also include technology transfer. This is quite an important thing for India. And other than that, according to information presented in Parliament by Minister of State for Defence Subhash Bhamre in March, during the year 2015-16 and 16-17, 37 defence-related contracts have been signed, and out of these 37 contracts, 7 contracts have been signed with Israel. This is second to only United States of America, which is on top. So you can see that Israel has slowly become a very reliable defense supplier of India, and probably in the future we will see more and more India-Israel defense deals. And this is also the end of the video. I have tried to cover a lot of aspects of Indo-Israel relations in this very short video, and I hope that this video has benefited you in one way or another. And if it has benefited you, then make sure to do like this video, and I will see you soon with another video.